MD is the biggest and baddest hardcore bodybuilding mag and website in the world. MD is #1, no bull.
All right, Bob Chick, we're here with the post-game report in New York. I'm here with David Baye and Peter McGough. Peter, great show here again tonight. Steve Weinberger and Jim Mannion, of course, at the judges' table at the helm. So you always know it's a good show when the president's in the seat.
That's right, and I mean it was a very interesting show, wasn't it? In many ways, we, Big Ramy was not
big.
Well, biggish Ramy. I mean, he wasn't the way he was last year, but it just shows the sign of his strengths that he can come in. Dennis said he was 85%. Who else can come in at 85%?
I assume you're not disputing that number.
No, it sounds about right. And to come in at 85% and win a show is remarkable.
And as good as Juan was, and John and the rest of the crew that we'll get into in a minute, at 85%, he was formidable enough to win this show. It's still a muscle show at the end of the day.
It is, and there's always that. You're going to go with size. You're going to go with conditioning. In the IFBB, you'd like to just assume that it's, this is the best of the best. These guys are going to have both. They're going to have the size and the conditioning. And at, shows like the New York Pro Olympia and Arnold, that's what you get. Obviously, Ramy had some issues coming in. But, yeah, at 85%, he is still so big that he just overtakes everybody. He turned around. He was a little bit soft in the hamstrings. He didn't have the type of detail in his back that we've seen with him before. But, again, it's just a matter of he's so much bigger than everybody else, at least at this show. Now, if he goes to an Arnold and an Olympia and he shows up like this, he's going to drop towards the bottom of the 9th or 10th. I think he's so big that at any show, even at the Arnold or the Olympia, he has room to come in off and still do respectable. He's not going to beat a Phil Heath or a Kai Green if he's off, but he's just on a different level than so many guys. And his quads, you just look at him and it looks like a set of quads and then another one on the outside. It's unbelievable.
Well, it seemed to be a three-man race almost out of the blocks, Peter, with Juan, John, and Big Ramy. Of course, Ramy taking that top pole position. But fourth and fifth, decent competition, but Lionel Baye coming in not as good as Brazil.
No, I wouldn't have had Lionel in the top 5, to be honest. And I thought Max Charles was the surprise of the show. We said last night he could be the wild card, sure. And I think he was. I mean, in the evening, I felt that he could have moved into third place. I mean, obviously his legs were not up to this standard of his upper body, but John was a little off. One was a clear second. That guy has a great attitude, absolutely. Great physique. He's improved every time out. Just needs to bring those legs up, and then he'll start winning really top shows.
I would have my man Marius Done once again. I think I could have had in fourth or fifth maybe, but once again finds himself on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I mean, I think he deserved to be called out in the top 6 and then see where he landed. That's the frustration for a bodybuilder who doesn't get that call. He could have got the top 6 and would have said he doesn't belong there, go to the side. But that's 3 shows in a row where it's not happened for him, and we're all sort of wondering why.
David, the Menace camp obviously representing well here with Ramy with the big win. Lionel, not as good. Where you go if you're Lionel Baye? We've seen him in a few shows now. He obviously didn't come up any sharper this show. Do you put him in Toronto?
First place I go is a treadmill or a stair climber. But and I said mostly good things about him online. He's one of those guys where his structure and his muscularity is so good that when you see him on stage, you just you're like, right. Because he could be just incredible. I know Dennis knows what he's doing, and Dennis knows how to bring these guys in, and so I'm not exactly sure what the case is with Lionel. A lot can be done in 2 weeks, as we saw with Ramy in Pittsburgh. Even if he wasn't at 100% tonight, huge change in 2 weeks. If he can make those kind of changes with Lionel going into Toronto, Lionel's a threat to win any show he enters. Maybe minus the Olympia and the Arnold, but he's just not bringing it. And from the front, everything is full and round, and he's not lacking anything. And he turns around and he's just significantly softer from the back. So I would like to see him in Toronto. I would like to see him razor sharp, but with his history, it seems like it's show after show after show. He's not really bringing it, so I don't know that at this point we really expect anything different out of him.
All right, well, that's your top 5 in the open. Peter, in the 212, it looked like the battle between Guy Cisternino and Aaron Clark. Did you see it as a close one, or was it a runaway for Aaron?
Very close, but first of all, I've got to take a note. Where should he go? The treadmill. I'll use that, So, I think it was very close. In the afternoon, I saw Guy more complete as maybe leading the chase, but in the evening, I thought Aaron got bigger, rounder and harder, and I think that's still the deal for him. I think he really came on strong in the evening, but it was very close. I haven't seen the score sheet, but it could have gone either way. The way I was looking at it, no problem with either of them winning.
Yeah, those two also seem to kind of set themselves apart. Not that the rest of the top five was bad. I mean, it was a good competition, although we only saw 3 awarded here. I actually have the score sheets in here. If you want to take a quick look, David, you can drum up a few of those numbers.
As it happens.
These are from the podium, Peter. These are like sacred scrolls that nobody gets a hold of. So. Sacred Scrolls.
Is that a medical complaint?
I think it's a band, actually. They did some songs in the 80s.
All right.
So we've got the 212 right here.
Curtis Bryant in 5th place. Not a surprise at all to me. This is a
Good physique.
Yeah, absolutely. I think probably the best that I've seen Curtis, and he went up against a tough lineup, but really good conditioning, especially from the back. I think he was probably the best in the 212 from the back as far as his conditioning. He's got really good shape, good structure, good muscularity. So, even for 5th place, he looked fantastic. Let's see who got 4th here. Marco Rivera.
Hometown boy in New York, had a lot of good love in the morning, but it seemed like he faded a little bit at night.
Yeah, there was a couple other guys in the 212 that I think probably could have been ahead of Marco. He's got real big quads, though, and he was in pretty good shape. Like you said, faded a little bit at night, but was good enough in the morning. I probably would have had Curtis ahead of Marco, but Marco was definitely fighting for that top 5 or 6 spot. So,
well, a good top 5 to say the least, Peter. Once again, in the 212s, well represented. Aaron Clark, I think, is going to do very well at the Olympia. He kind of seems to fit right in there, and I think he can challenge for one of those top spots. David, you were spot on with your men's physique assessment earlier. Jason Poston picks up his 2nd victory in as many weeks. In as many weeks. Listen carefully. And Peter, I know you're a resident expert, of course, in bikini and figure and women's physique. Women's physique was a runaway. Juliana Malacarne, 3-time champion.
She ran away from me, that's for sure, when I approached her. The men's physique, all the way through, I was sure that the guy with the board shorts was going to win. I could stake my reputation on that.
Once again, 100% spot on for Peter McGough. We did have an upset. I'm going to get to that in a second. Kamala Rodriguez, certainly the favorite coming in, did not disappoint, of course, comes out with the victory here. But she's not laying down. She's got another show. She's got the California that she won last year that she's going to be defending the title. But bikini, we had the big upset. Ashley Kaltwasser, your reigning Olympia champion, gets defeated here by local favorite Cicherillo Robles.
Yeah, it's like I had spoken about earlier. It's so close between all these girls as far as, you're looking at them and where does one, outdo the other. And it really is between these top 5 girls really close. I don't know that Ashley was necessarily off her best or if Cicherillo was, just at her best. Like I said, these girls are at this level, they're all pretty consistent as far as their conditioning and the way they show up at the shows. So as far as, I think a lot of times you could probably flip-flop a handful of the top girls on any given day and people wouldn't be too upset. Like I said, they're all very close. So definitely a surprise to see somebody who is the reigning Miss Olympia lose a show that's not the Olympia. But, Cicherillo's been, right behind her in a lot of shows. So I'm not all that shocked.
Peter, any truth to the rumor you had 10 girls tied for first?
I had them tied up, that's for sure. That's what I do on a Saturday night. I mean, as far as I saw the bikini, one can say literally it was a wafer-thin victory.
And on that note, we will close things out here in New York. Another great New York pro, of course. Our props to Steve Weinberger and crew for putting on an excellent competition. The IFBB train continues. Next week, the Optimum Nutrition Shreveport show. I'll be there calling the action. In 2 weeks' time, Peter, a big, big show. Ron Hachey putting on the Toronto Pro Super Show. We'll see a couple of the guys here competing. That's going to wrap things up here for David Baye. For Peter McGough, I'm Bob Chick, signing out.
MD is the biggest and baddest hardcore bodybuilding mag and website in the world. MD is #1. No bull.